The galaxy had known war for centuries. Empires rose and fell, civilizations were conquered, and weaker species vanished without a trace. Among them, humanity was nothing more than a small, insignificant race. At least, that's what the powerful Zorvok Empire believed. The Zorvok were warriors, conquerors of 1,000 worlds. Their fleets controlled entire sectors of space, and no species had ever resisted their rule. They crushed planets, enslaved millions, and ruled with an iron fist. When they discovered Earth, they didn't see a threat. They saw another weak species, another easy conquest. A message was sent to humanity. Submit to the Zorvok Empire, or be destroyed. There was no negotiation, no warning, just a simple demand. The galactic community expected the humans to surrender immediately. After all, they were nothing compared to the mighty Zorvok fleet. Other species had faced the same ultimatum, and had chosen survival over destruction. But humanity was different. Instead of surrendering, Earth responded with a message of its own. We do not bow. If you come for us, be prepared for war. The galaxy laughed. War? Against the Zorvok? It was suicide. But the humans did not laugh. They prepared. The Zorvok did not wait for another response. They gathered their greatest fleet, over 500 warships, each capable of destroying entire cities with a single blast. Their capital ships were massive, floating fortresses of steel and firepower. The invasion force moved swiftly, entering human space without fear. There was no resistance, no fleet to meet them. Zorvok commanders sneered. Cowards, they ran before the battle even started. But then, their sensors picked up something strange. A single massive object moving towards them. It was not a fleet, not an armada, just one ship. A ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was colossal, larger than any battleship ever built. Its black metal hull absorbed the light of distant stars, making it look like a shadow moving through space. Strange symbols were etched into its surface, markings of a language no alien had ever seen. This was the Titan, humanity's most powerful warship. The Zorvok fleet scanned the ship. Its armor was thick, its energy levels off the charts, but it was still just one ship against an entire invasion fleet. The Zorvok commander, the veteran of countless battles, smirked. One ship, that's their defense. Pathetic. He opened a channel and mocked the humans. Surrender now, and we will spare some of you. Resist, and Earth will burn. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a single message came through. A voice, calm, steady, and without fear. Leave now, or be destroyed. The Zorvok commander laughed. Fire. The Zorvok warships unleashed their full firepower. Thousands of plasma cannons roared to life, sending burning energy across space. Missiles locked on to the Titan, speeding towards it with deadly precision. The attacks hit their mark. A massive explosion engulfed the Titan, and for a moment, the Zorvok cheered. But when the smoke cleared, the Titan was still there. Untouched, the plasma had no effect. The missiles had done nothing. The Zorvok commander's smile faded. Impossible. The galaxy watches. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations watched in disbelief. News of the battle spread like wildfire. How? How could a single human warship survive an attack that could wipe out entire fleets? Fear began to creep into the hearts of those who had mocked humanity. Perhaps they had underestimated Earth. Perhaps they had made a terrible mistake. The Titan remained motionless, as if daring the Zorvok to try again. For the first time in history, the Zorvok hesitated. Then, the Titan moved, and the real battle began. The Zorvok fleet hung in space, their weapons primed but their confidence shaken. The Titan had taken the full force of their firepower and remained unharmed. The warship floated in the void, dark and silent, like a predator watching its prey. On the Zorvok command ship, Supreme Commander Vorketh clenched his jaw. He had crushed countless civilizations before, reducing entire worlds to ashes. Yet here he was, staring at a single human warship that refused to fall. His officers were restless. One of them, a tall reptilian with dark red scales, hesitated before speaking. "Commander, we should analyze their technology before attacking again. Our scans show an unknown energy source." Vorkath slammed his fist against the console. "They are primitives. One ship will not stop us. Prepare the plasma lances. Fire at full power." A hum filled the command bridge as the Zorvok fleet's most powerful weapons charged up. Plasma lances, beams of pure, concentrated energy, could slice through asteroid fields like paper. No shield had ever withstood them. The command was given. Blinding blue beams shot across the void, colliding directly with the Titan. The attack shook space itself, causing nearby debris to vaporize instantly. For a moment, nothing could be seen beyond the glare of energy. Then the light faded. The Titan was still there, unscathed. No scorch marks, no damage. The dark hull of the ship absorbed the attack as if it had never happened. The Zorvok fleet fell into dead silence. And then the Titan spoke. A deep, mechanized voice echoed across all enemy channels. "Your weapons are weak. Your arrogance is your downfall. Now you will learn what fear truly is." A low hum vibrated through the vastness of space. The Titan was charging up. Inside the ship, Captain Elias Rourke stood on the command deck, eyes locked on the enemy fleet. His officers, a mix of men and women hardened by war, watched their screens as the ship's energy levels climbed. "Sir, enemy fleet is showing signs of hesitation," one of the officers reported. Rourke's lips curled into a small smirk. "Good. Let them hesitate. They've never faced humanity before." The hum grew louder. Then, with a sound like the roar of a god, the Titan fired. A single red beam erupted from its main cannon. It was not just a weapon. It was a force of nature. The beam struck the nearest Zorvok battleship, disintegrating it on impact. No explosion, no wreckage, just instant annihilation. The Zorvok fleet panicked. "What is that weapon?" one of the officers screamed. Vorkath's cold blood ran hot. He had never seen anything like this. He turned to his navigation officer. "Pull the fleet back. Regroup outside the system." But before they could react, the Titan fired again. 3 more ships vanished. The once mighty Zorvok fleet, the same fleet that had conquered entire civilizations, was now running. The Titan moved forward, slow and unstoppable. It was not chasing, it was hunting. Then something even more terrifying happened. From the darkness of space, several more massive human warships emerged. Each one was as large as the Titan, their black hulls reflecting the cold light of distant stars. Humanity had not sent just one ship. They had sent an armada. And now, the Zorvok were the hunted. The Zorvok fleet was in chaos. Ships scrambled to retreat, their commanders barking frantic orders over communication channels. Some vessels tried to regroup, forming defensive formations, but it was too late. The Titan and its silent armada advanced like an unstoppable tide, their dark hulls gleaming under distant starlight. Inside the Zorvok command ship, Supreme Commander Vorkath's mind raced. He had never encountered an enemy like this. For centuries, the Zorvok had crushed weaker civilizations, using their superior technology to establish dominance. Yet now, they were the ones retreating. One of his officers, a young strategist named Kaller, hesitated before speaking. "Commander, we must attempt diplomacy. Their weapons are beyond anything in the galaxy. We need tow." Vorkath's fist slammed against the console. "Diplomacy? With primitives? No, we must uncover their weakness." The Supreme Commander turned his attention to the battle screen. The human warships were not chasing them. They did not need to. Instead, they moved forward at a slow, terrifying pace, like predators toying with prey. Then came the message. A deep, Commanding voice echoed across all open frequencies. Your reign ends today. You are no longer the conquerors. You are the conquered. The Zorvok officers froze. Vorkath clenched his teeth. His claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. Who dares speak to me in such a tone? He growled. The screen flickered. A human face appeared. A man, his sharp blue eyes filled with quiet fury, stared back at Vorkath. He wore a dark uniform, his insignia marking him as a fleet commander. I am Admiral Jonathan Hale of the Terran Dominion, the human said, his voice cold and unwavering. Your time is over. Vorkath snarled. You are nothing. Your kind has never stood against us. We are the masters of the galaxy. You cannot. Hale raised his hand. Fire. The Titan's main cannon glowed red once more. This time, it did not fire a single shot. Instead, a surge of energy erupted outward in all directions, a gravitational wave that rippled through space itself. Zorvok ships veered off course, their navigation systems thrown into disarray. Smaller ships were ripped apart, their hulls crumpling like paper under an unseen force. The larger battleships spun helplessly, their engines flickering. Vorkath's ship shook violently, warning sirens blared. His officers shouted, but their words were lost in the chaos. What is this? Hale's expression remained calm. This is your downfall. As the Zorvok ships struggled to recover, the human fleet attacked. The Titan launched tactical strikes, each shot calculated, each impact precise. Zorvok battleships erupted into fire, their shields torn apart like fragile glass. The humans did not waste ammunition. They did not engage in reckless destruction. They hunted. One by one, Zorvok ships vanished. Some exploded in brief flashes of light. Others were simply erased, as if they had never existed. And then, for the first time in history, the Zorvok did the unthinkable. They surrendered. A transmission flickered onto the human fleet's channels. A trembling Zorvok officer appeared, his red scales dulled with fear. Please, we yield. Do not destroy us. The bridge of the Titan fell silent. Admiral Hale did not speak for a moment. Then he turned toward his officers. Hold fire. The war was over. But deep inside his mind, Hale knew. This was only the beginning. The silence that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. For centuries, the Zorvok had been unstoppable. They had torn through worlds, enslaved civilizations, and ruled with iron talons. Their conquests were swift, their victories absolute. No species had ever dared resist them. Until now. Now, their warships, once feared symbols of power, floated lifelessly in the void. Some drifted aimlessly, their systems fried by the Titan's gravitational wave. Others hung in space like shattered husks, their hulls broken and burning. And for the first time in recorded history, the Zorvok had surrendered. On the bridge of the Titan, Admiral Jonathan Hale stood tall, his gaze locked on the shaking Zorvok officer on the transmission screen. The alien's red scales had paled to an ashen hue, and his reptilian eyes darted nervously. Please, the Zorvok officer repeated, his voice strained. We yield. Do not destroy us. The Titan's crew exchanged glances, their faces unreadable. They had trained for war, not mercy. Hale exhaled slowly, then turned to his communications officer. Patch me through to Supreme Commander Vorkath. A moment later, the screen flickered, and Vorkath's snarling face appeared. But he was no longer the same. The once mighty Zorvok warlord, who had threatened to crush humanity, who had mocked the idea of humans being more than insects, now looked defeated. His golden armor was scuffed, his posture stiff with barely contained rage. And yet, he did not speak. He knew. He had lost. Hale took a step closer to the screen, his piercing gaze unyielding. Your empire is over, Vorkath. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of 1,000 battles. Your fleet is crippled. Your warriors are surrendering. The Zorvok are no longer conquerors. You are the conquered. Vorkath's claws twitched against his console. His nostrils flared. If you expect me to bow, human, you are mistaken. Hale's lips curled into something that was not quite a smile. I don't need you to bow. I just need you to understand one thing. The transmission flickered, revealing the full human armada surrounding the remnants of the Zorvok fleet. It was not just the Titan. More warships than the Zorvok had ever seen. Sleek, black behemoths armed with weapons that defied logic. Each ship a silent testament to humanity's patience, preparation, and power. Hale let Vorkath stare at his doom. Then he spoke, each word deliberate. This is the last warning you'll ever receive. Humanity is not prey. We are not weak. We are not here to be conquered. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a quiet threat. If you ever think of striking at us again, we won't stop at your fleet. We will come for your throne. We will come for your homeworld. A cold chill settled over the Zorvok command deck. Even through the screen, the weight of Hale's words crushed them. This was not just a defeat. This was a reckoning. Vorkath's jaw tightened. His entire life, he had believed in one truth. Power ruled the stars. Might determined destiny. Weakness invited destruction. And now he was the weak one. He could see it in Hale's eyes. This human did not bluff. The Supreme Commander lowered his gaze. What do you want? He growled. Hale straightened, his expression unreadable. Surrender your fleet. Withdraw from all occupied worlds. Declare the Zorvok Empire dissolved. Vorkath snarled at the last demand. You ask for the death of my people. No, Hale corrected. I'm offering their survival. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Vorkath could refuse. He could fight to the last ship, the last soldier. But he knew how that story ended. Slowly, reluctantly, he bowed his head. The war was over. But deep in the shadows of the galaxy, others were watching. Humanity had made its move. And now, the real war was only beginning. The embers of battle still glowed faintly in the wreckage-strewn void, a silent testament to humanity's arrival as a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. The Titan and its fleet stood watch, their weapons primed, their crews silent, waiting. But now, the war had entered a different phase. For Admiral Jonathan Hale, the battle had been the easy part. Now came the aftermath. Inside the command chamber of the Titan, a massive holographic map flickered to life, displaying hundreds of Zorvok-occupied planets. Once, each of these worlds had fallen to conquest. Their people had lived under the shadow of terror, their fates dictated by the will of an empire that believed itself invincible. Not anymore. Hale's officers sat around the long war table, their faces illuminated by the glowing star maps. The weight of victory pressed upon them, not as a relief, but as a burden. Captain Sarah Calloway folded her arms, her voice edged with concern. We shattered their fleet, forced their surrender. But what happens now? Do we just walk away? Commander Ilias Mercer, a veteran tactician, shook his head. Walking away isn't an option. The Zorvok were the iron fist holding these systems together. Without them, the entire region is a power vacuum. Chaos is inevitable. Hale nodded. That was the reality of war. Destroying a tyrant was easy. Preventing something worse from taking its place, that was the real challenge. We need to move fast, he said, his voice firm. We can't occupy every planet, but we can't let them collapse either. We need allies, local resistance movements, leaders who can hold the line. A quiet murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Then, the transmission signal flared to life. An incoming message. From Vorkath. The Supreme Commander had been taken aboard the Titan under heavy guard. His golden armor stripped of its markings, his weapons confiscated. He was no longer a warlord. He was a prisoner. But as the screen flickered, his slitted eyes still burned with something dangerous. You believe this war is over, Vorkath said, his voice rough but steady. You are wrong. The officers stiffened. Hale leaned forward. Explain. Vorkath exhaled slowly, as if speaking the words aloud took effort. The Zorvok were never the true masters of this war. The room went silent. Hale's mind sharpened instantly. He had expected Vorkath to plead, to demand better terms, to hold on to his pride. But this was something else. If you have something to say, Hale said evenly, say it. Vorkath's claws curled into fists. The Zorvok Empire was strong, yes, but we were never alone. There are others, hidden in the dark, more powerful than you realize. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. They let us rule because we were useful, because we kept the lesser races in check. But now, his reptilian gaze locked onto Hale's. Now, they will come. A slow chill crept through the room. A greater enemy, a force unseen. Commander Mercer narrowed his eyes. Who? Vorkath's lip curled in something between hatred and fear. You think yourselves predators now. You think your victory makes you strong. He leaned closer to the screen, his voice dropping to a whisper. You were prey long before you knew it. The transmission cut. The room fell into stunned silence. Then the alarms blared. Unidentified ships. Entering the system. Fast. Hale rose to his feet, his heart pounding. This wasn't over. It had only just begun. The moment the alarms blared, every officer in the command room snapped into action. The Titan's artificial intelligence, VEGA, flooded the display screens with urgent data. The sensors had picked up multiple unknown contacts, large, fast, and closing in from the outer edge of the system. Admiral Hale didn't need to be told twice. Raise shields. Bring all weapons online. I want every ship in our fleet ready for engagement. Now, the Titan's vast war machine stirred to life. Turrets rotated into position, missile launchers primed, and energy cannons hummed as they gathered power. The rest of the fleet followed suit, adjusting their formations, preparing for what was coming. But what was coming? The bridge was eerily silent, save for the beeping of consoles and the rapid exchange of tactical updates. Then, VGA's voice, calm yet edged with urgency, filled the room. Enemy vessels have breached the system's outer perimeter. Estimated time to contact: 4 minutes. No known identification codes match their signatures. Hale turned to his officers. Tactical assessment. Commander Mercer's brow furrowed as he examined the incoming data. Their movement patterns don't match the Zorvok or any of the other major empires we've encountered. These ships, they're massive, but there's something strange. Their energy signatures are fluctuating, almost like they're... He hesitated. Like they're alive. A cold weight settled in Hale's gut. Before he could respond, the first visual feed came through. The image was grainy at first, distorted by the sheer distance, but as the resolution sharpened, the bridge crew froze. What they saw was not a fleet of ships. It was a swarm. The vessels, or creatures, or whatever they were enormous, dark, and organic. Their hulls twisted and pulsed like muscle, and eerie bioluminescent patterns flickered across their surfaces. Long, jagged appendages extended from their bodies, resembling massive claws or tentacles. And there were hundreds of them. By all the stars. Someone whispered, "What in the hell are we looking at?" Captain Calloway muttered, her fingers tightening on the console. VEGA provided the chilling answer: unknown biological entities. Heat signatures indicate they are not ships but living organisms. Their internal power sources suggest they possess weapons systems integrated within their bodies. Hale exhaled slowly. Living warships. This was not the enemy they had prepared for. Vorkath's warning echoed in his mind. You were prey long before you knew it. Hale turned back to the screen. The swarm was still advancing, and they weren't slowing down. Any attempts at communication? He asked. All frequencies have been jammed. No response, VEGA reported. That wasn't good. Hale clenched his jaw. They needed a plan, and fast. Options. Commander Mercer spoke first. We can fall back to the asteroid belt and use it as cover, forcing them into a choke point. That would give us a defensive advantage. Calloway shook her head. They have the numbers. If they can regenerate or worse, consume our ships, we'll be fighting a losing battle. Hale stared at the tactical map. He didn't like the odds. They had fought the Zorvok and won, but this was something else entirely. Then, a chilling realization hit him. The Zorvok had never truly feared humanity. They had fought, they had resisted, but they had never shown this level of desperation. But the moment humanity arrived, the Zorvok had surrendered. Why? Because they knew something worse was coming. They weren't afraid of us, Hale murmured. They were afraid of them. A heavy silence filled the bridge. Then, without warning, the swarm accelerated. Incoming. Hostiles moving at high velocity. The screen flashed red. The first wave had arrived. And all hell broke loose. The silence before impact lasted only a fraction of a second. Then the battlefield erupted into chaos. The first wave of living warships crashed into the outer formation of humanity's fleet, tearing through the initial defenses like a predator breaching fragile prey. The Titan trembled as shockwaves rippled through space, the sheer force of the impact triggering emergency stabilizers. On the bridge, Admiral Hale gripped the edge of his command console, eyes locked onto the tactical display. The enemy had arrived in full force. Open fire. All weapons, maximum output. Do not let them break the line. Orders spread across the fleet in an instant. Battleships, cruisers, and dreadnoughts unleashed a relentless onslaught of plasma fire, railgun salvos, and missile barrages. But the enemy did not die like ships. The first volley struck the creatures directly, some detonating in spectacular explosions. But then, something terrifying happened. The wounded ships regenerated. Where plasma burned away their outer shells, the wounds sealed shut within seconds. Fragments of destroyed creatures merged with others, reattaching and reforming. They were adapting. Their bodies are absorbing the energy. They're repairing at an unnatural rate. Commander Mercer shouted. Hale's fists clenched. Redirect all fire to kinetic weapons. Plasma and energy-based attacks are useless. Railguns adjusted their trajectories, switching to high-velocity tungsten rounds. As the second wave approached, hundreds of slugs were fired at near-relativistic speeds. The results were brutal. Where plasma had failed, kinetic force succeeded. The projectiles punched through the organic hulls, tearing massive chunks from the creatures. Some of them shattered completely under the sheer force, their bodies spiraling into the void in lifeless husks. It was a small victory. And then the swarm evolved. The next wave of creatures did something no one had predicted. Instead of charging forward blindly, they adapted their formations. The wounded survivors merged together, shifting into larger reinforced entities. They fused into colossal biomechanical constructs, their bodies twisting into new forms, denser, faster, more resistant. They were learning. They're changing their structure mid-battle. VEGA reported. Tactical projections estimate a 72% increase in durability. Our current weaponry will become ineffective within minutes. Hale felt a cold chill run down his spine. They weren't just fighting monsters. They were fighting an intelligence. One that was studying them. One that was adapting faster than they could counter. And then came the worst realization of all. The Titan's long-range sensors detected movement, not just from the battlefield, but from beyond. More of them were coming. Thousands, maybe millions. The fleet was fighting a vanguard. The real invasion had yet to begin. Hale exhaled sharply. We need a new strategy. Now. Commander Calloway's eyes flickered with determination. We need to find a way to disrupt their regenerative ability. If we can stop them from healing. VEGA interrupted. Analysis complete. Their biological composition suggests a dependency on an unknown energy field that binds them together at the molecular level. If disrupted, their ability to regenerate will fail. Mercer caught on immediately. If we cut off their power source, we can kill them for good. Hale's mind raced. How do we disrupt it? VGA's response was immediate. A focused gravitic pulse at extreme intensity could destabilize the field, rendering them vulnerable to conventional weapons. A gravitic pulse. The kind of weapon that only one ship in the fleet carried. The Titan. Hale took a deep breath. Prep the gravitic cannon. Get me firing solutions. A hushed tension filled the bridge. This was a gamble. If the theory was wrong, if the cannon failed, they would have wasted precious time and more lives. But it was their only chance. The swarm was closing in, their combined mass blocking out the stars. Humanity had one shot, and they were about to take it.